Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. We've got alleged fraud at a major Palantir client with their president even stepping down, and then also losing a government client out in France, and then augmented reality confirmed for Palantir, Cathie Wood buying up a bunch of shares, and analyst ratings after AIPCon maintaining them. And there's plenty more that happened this week, so let's get into it. But first, looking at the stock. We closed right above $14. This is pretty much the bottom range that we've been seeing the past months and actually touched into the $13 territory on Thursday. A lot of the downward pressure, in my opinion, was driven by the Fed. Even though rates were not hiked, the digestion of the market seems to be more accepting that rates will stay high for longer. But we'll see what happens there. So what was all the news happening this week? And I'll briefly note the videos I already posted this past week and close out on the newer stuff. So first, we've got that loss of an international government client. The DGSI is the internal security body of France who last renewed their Palantir contract back in 2019 for around 10 million euros. Now, they've decided to run out of the rest of their contract and are aiming to implement their new homegrown solution first, built by ChatVision by the Paris Olympics, which is summer of 2024. So that's coming pretty quick. The article states the French government has been checking in quarterly to ensure the new solution meets their requirements, but it's important to note this decision was brewing for a long time, years in the making, where they've been publicly decrying Palantir themselves, trying to get away and move towards a homegrown solution. So we'll see if anything changes, but I'm assuming this business is gone already for now, and wish them the best of luck with their own domestic solution, even though I'm not really sure what's going to turn out. Next, we have the too bullish analyst rating being maintained, which is important to note happened after AIPCon. Dan Ives from Wedbush keeps his buy rating and $25 price target, with Mariana Perez Mora from Bank of America also keeping her buy rating with a $18 price target. So although there was no increase in these targets here, taking place after AIPCon shows that they did not see any red flags from AIPCon that warranted any weaknesses or changes in their ratings and price targets. So that's a good thing. The common themes, though, are that Palantir's strategy appears to show the clues that it is working and that clients are growing from AIP, as well as the sophistication of the use cases being shown should spur more demand, as competitors need to implement AI just to play at the same level of these clients. Now, these two are obviously on the higher end of the spectrum compared to other analyst ratings, so just keep that in mind there. Then we've got Palantir stepping up their media presence to their US government business, but also a sneak peek into their augmented reality tech. So Jacob Helberg, the senior policy advisor to the CEO Alex Karp, spoke on Fox News First regarding US-China relations. Shyam Sankar released a proposal to deter China and the DoD to stir up competition as buyers. And then Alex Karp spoke to CNBC and Fox Business again at the Software for Government. So all of these are consistently on message, honestly, for the company, from everyone. And the main focus of everything is deterring Chinese aggression by having military superiority from the US. And to achieve this, everyone notes that the United States is ahead of the whole world when it comes to artificial intelligence, meaning we need to develop this with the right guardrails and legislation in a responsible manner. So the risks of China closing in on our technology lead is very real, but it requires that US to bring together tech and policymakers to create that framework that allows the safe development of artificial intelligence. Alongside this, Shyam Sankar's article focuses on pushing the DoD to be more innovative and spurring competition amongst themselves as buyers, where he referred ballistic missiles being developed by these separate military branches before, which eventually led to the higher performing products pull forward while scaling back those poor performers, and rightly so. If this proposal actually does make a difference over time or gets implemented, we shall see. And for Alex Karp's interviews, he performed very well, I think, in my opinion, and I think he seems to do much better at these news interviews than I think for like AIPCon, for example, at least from the investor standpoint. He's really focused on the questions and answers in a positive light for the company, while being relaxed and not as uptight as a typical CEO would be in these interviews, so he does come off as very real. Either way, Ukraine has been a great talking point for them to show how valuable Palantir has been during their Fox Business interview. As well as on CNBC, he spreads word on how high demand is for AIP, and they are seeing radical growth for the United States, albeit Europe is much slower. So with all this media presence for Palantir this week, and hope to see more of this kind of positive PR in the future some more, it is going to get the word out there and just get basic name recognition for them. Then we also got a new deal with CAZ Investments, who is a Houston-based asset manager that's with $4 billion under management, so it's not that big, but it is a long deal at 5 years. So I'm thinking they've already built up the use cases and value, and were already convinced to stick with Palantir for so long. We'll see how they perform over time and hope they stay around as a client much longer in the future. But notably, I wanted to point out that they are an asset manager, so we don't hear about these kind of partnerships too much from Palantir, but we know that these kind of clients are coming to them. And then we got Arnie, who got a snippet from the S4G conference that teased that mixed reality headset that we've seen in the background of Alex Karp's CNBC interview. This will be a great way for end users to understand how Palantir ties data together and makes it a visual tool for operators. Now, for my own speculations wise, as a warning, this could be an early step into consumer applications for Palantir, but I wouldn't bank on them focusing on that yet, now while the technology is still being teased out for the government clients. So who knows, maybe far in the future. But what I think would be closer is that commercial application of virtual training for surgeons per se, running simulations, or maybe factory workers training on items, and of course this is before they use the physical ones, or oil rigs, which is a very dangerous job. Either way, I could see lots of applications here. Basically, you want to lower the stakes during training as much as possible until you have to practice on the real thing and do the on-site work just to be as safe as possible and even be as efficient with money. So either way, cool insight into the future. Now, onto the newest stuff. Cathie Wood scooped up more shares on Thursday when the market dropped as fast as 7% into the 13s, but closed the day right at $14 a share. So I'm assuming she's buying around that area. She purchased a little over 1 million shares over a few funds. So these past few months, though, she's been buying up shares on these quick downturn days. It probably adds some stability considering we see these large swings down and we see large buyers swooping in. Now, to know if that will continue, that's another story. But just from my anecdotal observations, we can take a look at ARK's journey across their funds of accumulating and selling off their Palantir shares and restarting their position here. When Palantir DPO'd, it didn't take long for ARK to start dipping their toes into the shares, but really ramped up during the price surge as well throughout 2021. But as we all know, in 2022, this all changed inside of the slowing government business, and that changed thinking that there wouldn't be as many sole source contracts, and then the risk off rewards to them was not that good, meaning they just thought there were better opportunities. And this was spoken by Brett Winton from ARK, and he did an interview with Meet Kevin there. So things can change. But for now, it looks like ARK is still in accumulation mode. Amit had a great video that covers this subject, so please check that out. Basically, they see government as a bright spot again and are optimistic on the artificial intelligence platform for Palantir. And I'm not going to behold myself, of course, to their thesis, but it's always interesting to see who else is buying Palantir. Next, Palantir gets a shout out on a Tampa Bay General article here, being recognized as one of the best smart hospitals for 2024. They mention all their tech initiatives to make them a more high-tech hospital, and Palantir gets a little bit of the spotlight alongside GE Healthcare. They don't get in too much specifics here, but it's still nice to see them get a mention and having being pivotal to their augmentation for their technical capabilities. More and more of these little PRs do add up over time and will expose more commercial folks to the good work that Palantir is doing, especially in the healthcare field. Then, Palantir posted their Cone Health Masterclass, where it's about leadership adopting technology like Palantir and transforming their healthcare organizations. It's a long one here at about 14 minutes, and it's meant for leadership, honestly, on how to get through that friction of adoption of a product. So it's very invasive, and of course, Palantir is a good example of that. And Cone Health was listed as a workshop presenter too for the AIP Con. So it's nice that they may have touched on this a little bit as well with other clients in person there. So we hope to see more tangible results, of course, in the future if they ever want to present. Now, the most unfortunate news for Palantir is the fraud scandal with one of their clients popping up this month that ended up with Sompo's president resigning. The perpetrator, though, was Big Motor, who is a widespread used car dealer in Japan. They do repairs and stuff that experienced immense growth the last few years. But basically, there's been evidence leak where they've alleged be overcharging customers with work they don't even do, like an oil change and just don't do it, or even damaging vehicles themselves, or making the damage even worse because it was already going to be billed to the auto insurance companies, aka Sompo, which they can get more money from. And you'd think Sompo wouldn't want this to happen and pay more out for these. But in the end, with this passing on the fraudulent claims, Big Motor was pushing Sompo's auto insurance plans over other competitors because of this acceptance too. And this chain reaction kept going, so during an investigation with Sompo, they found no systematic fraud in the final report, and they obviously approved it, and due to their interest in keeping Big Motor valuable. But this ended up backfiring on them, where the other major auto insurance companies audited them the same way and easily found these fraudulent claims being widespread, over half of them, which led to Big Motor's leadership resigning as well as Sompo's president, admitting he was still doing business with Big Motor, even knowing that this fraud was going on. And this is still a developing story, of course, and what I'm saying is mostly alleged, but this was why they did not attend AIP Con, for those who are wondering. And Japan's equivalent of the SEC, the Financial Services Agency, is still monitoring them. them. As I mentioned, this is still a developing story. Now, in regards to being a customer of Palantir, this goes to show that it's how you use the technology and products. Now, it sucks for sure, and any adverse effects onto Sompo's financials will affect their possible revenue to Palantir, but it doesn't sound like Palantir's products were responsible for missing the fraud or underperforming, but rather allegedly ignoring it on purpose for the sake of their own profit. So there's a difference there. So it's not necessarily bad for Palantir and their products, to be honest, but it still sucks for them considering they are a major partner in Japan and, of course, losing that trust with the public. But yeah, there was a lot of news this week. What are your thoughts on all this? Let me know below, and thank you all for watching and appreciate my channel members, and I'll see you in the next video.